Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to GameStar TV. It is cracking along tonight, and old Soldier 76 over there, even though he's cold, he's very pleased with the progress of tonight's events. So we are going to be jumping into our third match of the evening, round number 3 of the Swiss bracket. But before we do that, we've got to do a quick draw of the raffle. And so the question is the robot going to give Holy Grail something else again? So I'll just drop over and press the magic button. If I can find the giveaways, there we go, and close that raffle, and here we go. So Cryptic661 is a follower, and he's won the Stukov Hero Bundle. Now, while we're doing Champion Select, we'll be opening up the next raffle, so to enter that, GS HOTS with an exclamation mark in front of it, but that'll come in just a moment. Right now, it's time for Disconquer and Geo Phoenix once again to take you through, and it's going to be Pocket Melida versus Team DC. Take it away, Disco.
All right, here we are. We are getting ready for Infernal Shrines. We've already have the names. It's two, I'd call them fan favorites, at least to me anyway. I like Pocket, great lads on that team, and Team DC as well. As we bust into the draft, obviously Pocket Melida will be on the blue side, Team DC on the red, Team DC, so they're a bit fast. On the red side, blue has first ban. It's Infernal Shrines, GL. Do we see any different bans on this map as opposed to everything else in HOTS?
Well, to be honest, I'm kind of expecting anything, to be honest, especially with some of the people that some of the people on these teams, they are kind of some interesting characters on both sides, so anything can really happen, but wouldn't be too surprised to just see the usual Tassa Oriole bans, but already we're seeing a bit of a hover over to the Stitches, which also has been kind of an obnoxious pick to kind of deal with. We saw in that last match just what kind of power he has. And
I wouldn't be surprised with the Stitches ban has done. It's actually joined the Uberak. Is a little bit different. Could we be seeing Pocket Melida picking up the Stitches, taking Stitches?
Well, that's an option, but the biggest thing about this for me is that a lot of those two big supports could potentially be on the table at the same time. There's the option for Team DC to take away ban away the Oriole or the Tassadar, or leave both of them on, because once it gets to their first two picks, one of those would still be on the table for them to pick up. And by leaving both of them up, you have to force your opponents to at least make the decision, do we want the Oriole, do we want the Tassadar? We can only have one of them, and our opponent will more than likely take the other. So there's that option to go with, maybe just ban away something like a Dahaka, or maybe even like an Uther, just something not of the usual, just to allow that draft mindset to come in.
That's not usual. That's not usual.
I'm going to say that one is most definitely not usual. But that it's going to be the Uther first pick, so that does allow the potential for the Oriole Tassadar to come out for Team DC.
They did do that, because they could pick up Oriole Tassadar, but then that will then leave on the side of Pocket Melida to pick up Chromie, and Pocket Melida does have Zep Lion, who does play an incredibly good Chromie game, and is that kind of detrimental enough against the Oriole Tassadar potential lineup with whatever hero they choose to support? Do you think is that a factor, or is that just the Tassadar Oriole is way cooler than it's not even a factor, so who cares?
That's not even going to bother about that in even the slightest manner. The Grey Man and the Diablo, they are two very good heroes for this map in Infernal Shrines. The Diablo, there's a lot of walls for him to slam people into, and his wave clear is actually pretty decent to clear out a lot of those skeletal guardians. Likewise on the Grey Man, he has a lot of damage, he has a lot of a reasonable amount of clear, and can do quite well around those shrines, and he's a really good general pick high up in a draft. I think it was an article put together by a bakery talking about Greyman and his versatility in drafts. You don't necessarily see him towards the latter end because there's already something specific that you want to go in that regard, but high up in the draft, he's really good because he's very flexible. But on the other side, there's a bit of an interesting pick with the Kalthas and the Sylvanas.
I actually like the KT pick, because obviously a Nubarak is off the board, so his KT can be a little bit more safe. and convection stacked, obviously, because the teams do tend to stack up a little bit. So convection could be very easy to build on this map based off that. And, lane clearing ability to do the objective adds KD to be a pretty nice little bundle.
Yeah, and also the Sylvanas pickup with it. I was talking about in the last draft, there's only maybe a few maps where you get that very obvious value out of the Sylvanas. This being one of those maps, I'd say, Infernal Shrines, because if you do manage to get those punishes, you win so hard. You push so hard with even that first one that very rarely gets a lot of value. You can disable all those towers. You can push essentially the first fort with the first punisher, and you can get so much value out of that pick.
Jaina into Malfurion. Nice. That's looking at it like a really good way to zone, keep Greymane in the fight. Obviously, Jaina does a lot of slowing effects, and she's quite burst heavy and orientated herself. Plus, she can combo. Her Ring of Frost can go into APOC, or APOC possibly come off a Ring of Frost, depending on the situation. And then Malfurion, there's a lot of lockdown on the side of our Team DC right now.
To be honest, from Team DC, I would not be surprised to see a Zeratul to finish that off.
Yeah,
because a lot of those heroes, as you're saying, the APOC and the Ring of Frost, they pair very well. They follow up very well from a Void. And we've seen that combo done so many times over the past years and seen its power. But we'll have to wait and see as we do see.
Ooh, wow! Butcher and Stitches.
That is not a pretty duo.
That's
But my God, that's gonna do some hurt.
Yeah, that's actually I kind of really like that. The Stitches last pick, but they were toying around with it early as maybe a ban. I thought maybe they could first pick it, but waiting to the end kind of that threatens the Malfurion. That threatens the Jaina. I really like it. But even with the Butcher, even with the Butcher option there, I still feel that Pocket Me Lighter is playing very much a little bit of a poke orientated game. The Butcher can dive in, but it's such delayed dive in that someone like Diablo is going to be able to position himself in the spot he needs to be, and with his overpower can really reposition Butcher quite easily. So I think we still got a heavy poke composition coming out of Pocket Me Lighter. And Stitches, they don't need to go anywhere, just bring your target to you.
Exactly. It could be a very strong pick combination or pick composition. As I was saying in the last draft with the Stitches, you want something like a KT to follow up on it. And I am so happy that I managed to call that so far in advance. It is the Zeratul for Team DC. It feels so good when you say, they could go towards this because of this, and it all works together, and then they actually do it. It's just validates me.
Well, and you got so much. You got the Void Prison, that synergizes with almost everything on the team. And you talked about how Greymane's such a good pick in drafting because of his versatility. What we can see here at Team DC is that they've got this composition that's got like a kill switch. It's poke, it's a heavy poke, but then when it needs to, Greymane can switch it up and dive in on a target. So it's almost got a switch, and with the Zeratul can flick that switch and just go in really hard. And because it's a range composition that can turn into this really awesome dive composition, it's damage on both fronts. I really like it. The only people that really need to be concerned are sort of like Jaina and Malfurion because of Stitches on the enemy team.
Another thing that I'm really worried about is all of the pre-level 10 for Team DC. They need that level 10 to start making those plays happen. There's heroic combinations, are essentially what they're banking on, but we are getting into game. It is round 3 of the night. It is going to be Pocket Me Lighter versus Team DC, and we're on Infernal Shrines and Disco. Who do we have on the blue side?
On the blue side, it is the Pocket Me Lighter lads. KL playing Uther, Milo playing KT. We got FaZe playing as the Butcher. Shannon Knoll is Sylvanas, and Zep Lion is Stitches.
And on the red side, we have Team DC. We have Blank on Zeratul, Space Phoenix on Jaina, Soze on Greymane, Dinks on Diablo, and Good, I believe is how it's pronounced, Gwyd on Malfurion. I think that's how it's pronounced.
It's like Gwen without the end bit.
Gwyd. Almost like a squid, but a G instead.
Oh, look at this Chinese bush meta coming out, but
Yeah.
the Pocket Me Lighter boys have to move in. The Butcher goes in. It's jumped on. Big hook comes in. Beautiful play there. The team synergy. But FaZe does get removed off the board as well. It's 1-for-1. Early game aggression. Greymane soaking in the top lane. Nobody in the bottom. Oh my god.
And we get in the B steps. We're in AZ. That's what we know for sure. And one thing that kind of synergy that I didn't really think about too much, that we saw right at the start there, when Butcher goes in for that charge, when he makes contact, there's that little micro stun, and that gives more than enough time for Zeppelin on that Stitches to just land that hook, and that's what we saw. Space Phoenix locked down, and he was going absolutely nowhere, and with all that damage, looks like they want to do it
Jaina
again.
in the bottom lane's actually getting rushed in by FaZe. There's no follow-up, unfortunately. Zeppelin not in position in time to grab it. A magic hook, just in case the Space Phoenix was standing on the door, but...
About sending a message, I guess.
Shannon Knoll, however, in the top lane. Blank's going in for the kill. He dives onto him, taking damage. B-step comes out. I think it was from Shannon Knoll. Disrespecting the Blank. That's going to come back to haunt him, unless they get a serious level lead. However, in the bottom lane, oh, Space Phoenix! The hook comes out! Zepp Lion, he is a fisherman by trade, surely. Because he just keeps landing those babies.
And he even gives out the Mastery Taunt, of course. Zeppelin, always the showman. He's putting on a show for us already. And this is a pretty good start for the side of Pocket Me Lighter. And as we're saying in the draft, if they're able to get that objective, if they're able to get those punishers, with this Sylvanas, they can push that into a massive lead. Sure, she's on the top side, but she is recalling right now, and whether or not she wants to actually come in to try and help out with that objective and push with it, but it looks like she wants to go towards the top side of the map.
Yeah, well, she wants to deal with the Greymane in the top lane, so you're talking about Team DC needs to get to level 10, so they're almost giving up this Punisher, trying to get extra advantage. Blank, did you hear that? Did you hear that
He
from
wanted to go in
Butcher?
for that charge. He almost was going to come in.
I think Zeratul blinked away at the right blinked away at the right moment to cancel the ability going off. Like, oh my god, off by the skin of your back, Zeratul gets away. But look at this play here. There's been like a big change in momentum. Now, interesting thing, I wonder if Team DC... No, they're not going to be able to. I was like, man, I wonder if they could zone them out enough to actually get this.
Yeah,
But,
it's going to be very hard because with all the flame strikes coming in, we are going. There we go. That's the thing. That's the thing with Infernal Shrines. You can go to 38, 39, and then do everything else on the map.
Yeah.
Just paint the map blue. Just force your opponents to make a decision. Do you want to try and contest this, or do you go towards the point? Because as we get another hook. And again, with those Mastery Taunts, and now we do have the Sylvanas here with this Punisher, and it's going to be very hard for Team DC to actually put up any considerable defense against this. Oh, here we go.
Oh, the Butcher's on in, it doesn't connect, he cancels at the last second, Dinks is done, but he could be put himself in a dangerous situation, does get stunned. He can get away because he's got Malfurion there, keeping him healed. Hook comes in, hooks in Diablo. Diablo can't escape, he's on low health, he's staying alive, but there was gravity lapse. But it doesn't matter, because now the team will move back, and GL, how much health does that Punisher have?
That Punisher is so goddamn healthy. They could even push through.
3, 2, 1. Oh, Space Phoenix just missed it. Blanked in the back line, however, punishing Shannon. The Butcher charges in. Blank gets away. He actually coils back into it. He gets the kill, but he does get taken out with his own life. Not a bad situation because he does technically get the higher experience gain. Blank pressuring the back line. Great play, doing great, great use of that Vorpal Blade at level 1 down.
Yeah, and that's essentially what you want to be doing as a Zeratul, but he recognizes that it is a very dangerous spot to go in to, like, anywhere near that team. There's the Hammer of Justice, you have plays on this Butcher just homing in like a madman, so he has to be very wary and very quick on his toes to try and get a kill and get out as...
Step could be in. No, I thought he might have been in trouble there, but there was no overrun.
Yeah,
not enough.
No damage
not enough.
Yeah. It's a pretty good start. As I was saying, the Sylvanas getting a lot of that value from that first Punisher. and they're going to be getting to level 10 much quicker than what Team DC will.
All right, I just want to highlight that we have KT, who is 5 stacks off his convection talent. Butcher goes in, does grab Greymane and comes the gate, but he does get... What was that? He gets pulled out, hooked out, but he's gonna live. Dinks coming in with the save, but who's gonna save Dinks? No one, because he doesn't need it. Escapes the clusters of Pocket Me Lighter. I guess there's Diablo. He's like the embodiment of fear and fire, isn't he? So the Pocket Me Lighter boys definitely want him in the bag.
I am so impressed by that hook. Sure, I want to believe it was planned that Zep was able to hook a lunging Greymane as he was going in. As I said, he's a madman. He will go in. He does not care. He will go straight into your front line and try and lock down anyone just so we can get these hooks. Oh, Zep just throwing them out there, just trying to get those picks. And we're saying in the draft, it's the pick and prod kind of composition, and they're making it work really well so far.
But we know that the other team, Team DC, they are the level 10, and they desperately need it to really start having a go in these fights. Made even worse now that level 10 has been picked up for Pocket Me Lighter. I mean, the game is far from over, but Pocket Me Lighter just put so much lane pressure. They've split the soak here. I mean, KT might be in a little bit of trouble, but he's his quest talent. He's so close to finishing his quest. He could be in a bad spot. However, tell you about bad spot. Stitches not looking good. Dinks overthrows him. It's actually maybe a good situation. Zep could get away. He gouges a target, but he will fall to it. Flank, however, teleports out, so he is fine in this regard. Dangerous positioning there. I thought that was dangerous for KT, but Stitches, oh my god, that was not a good situation.
Exactly, with the rest of his team on the bottom side of the map trying to apply pressure there, it was just a bit too over-aggressive to try and stick around when there was all 5 members on the side of Team DC.
Oh, here's 3! The Void Prison's gone down! Apocalypse!
Here it is!
Down! The combos are insane, and we've got 3 members down! The switch has been activated! Level 10's been achieved for the Team DC boys! What does DC stand for? I don't know, but I think it's going to be the death count of the enemy team, because they just doubled their kill count.
So a little bit caught out. He is going to die. Lambert Slaughter will finish him off, but that was the moment we were waiting for. That level 10 on the side of Team DC. Void Prison into Apocalypse, into the Ring of Frost, and they just demolished Pocket Me Lighter, and now they can start to get some pressure of their own. Sure, the Sylvanas is pretty good on the offense, but on the defense doesn't have nearly as much power. But it looks like Pocket Me Lighter, they just want to fight, but FaZe is... All he has is Zep Lion with him, and he's actually not too worried. He's just going to keep on slapping away, and there's really nothing on the side of Team DC to stop him.
Yeah, because Zep Lion actually picked up Malfurion and removed him from fight. Great play there. Hook actually ends up hitting Blank. I don't know if that was the intended target. He looks like Blank did manage to blink away, so he's fine in that regards. But, wow, the big momentum shift. And even with that fight, nobody dying on the side of Team DC. The momentum shifted, and I think Team DC is very, very much in the controlling seat right now.
Yeah, they are in the point in the game where they are pretty much their strongest. They have that heroic combination that they can use. Sure, it's just a one-shot blunderbuss, but if they majorly let it hit, it is going to just dismantle Pocket Me Lighter. But if it just goes off in their face, they are just going to have a very horrid time. But they are still down structurally. They are down their top fort, their bottom fort, and they have to be very careful with how they play around the map. But it looks, as long as they can get those big team fights to work, they are in a pretty good spot.
All right, the big Twilight Dream comes out.
Here we go.
Does it again! What's calling it? Doesn't matter. The Ring of Frost goes off. Connect. Apocalypse goes down. Connects with a couple of bodies. We see the bodies start to fall now on each side. Butcher, Zeratul, taking one for each other's team. But then there's both teams decide to disengage from that. A little bit sloppy on both sides. But that Void Prison looks so good.
It was so promising. They had it all set up, but they weren't in position to, because it was essentially a reactionary Void Prison just to try and protect his team. It wasn't really the most optimal of setups, so they weren't able to line it up with the Apocalypse into the Ring of Frost. They just went straight for the Ring of Frost and then the Apocalypse, and they weren't able to cohesively string that together. They did end up trading 1-for-1, which is okay. But as I said, it's a blunderbuss. You have that one shot and you need to make it count. And I'm not sure they got nearly enough out of it, because if we look at the cooldowns, on the side of DC, they have nothing in the bag. They have nothing to work with, and there's still quite a bit on the side of Pocket Miata that they can work with on this next point.
Yeah, I 100% you're saying, there's no... Oh, Jaina! But it was at the random hook. Butcher goes in, locks Space Phoenix in position. He's about to fall, but doing a good job staying alive. FaZe actually won't fall. Too much focus on trying to deal with Blank in the back line. Big Flame Strike comes out, doesn't connect with anyone on the enemy team. That was a moment that Team DC was... I get that they were sweating for a second there, but they managed to pull it out of the stratosphere and brings back into him. Fight breaks, however, we see a nice Void Prism goes down. The Apocalypse! It has started the Ring of Frost! They're all down! Big 5-man! 5-man! Death and Destruction. The Butcher is back up, because obviously that's because he died earlier in that exchange. But, that is, it's just so dirty to watch Theo. And look, we're gonna hand out the Blank here. He is dropping probably some of the best Void Prisons I've seen in my life.
Absolutely. It's been a while since we've seen the Zeratul, and maybe that's what's catching Pokemon Lighter off guard. He's not used to playing around that hero, but as you mentioned, he's getting those absolute massive Void Prisms, and it's setting up those combos, and they actually were in position to set up that chain of heroics, and we see it there. Pokemon Lighter just they disappear. When you have that many heroics just wailed away at you, there's really not much you can do. And jeez, even it looked like Pokemon Lighter were going to be able to take that objective. It looks like they're going to be able to take the Punisher. They're at 32, 33, and just incidental damage from Flame Strikes would have been enough to take it, but that's the fight they needed, as we do have the next one coming right away.
Yeah, it's busting out now. I'm not sure how much I committed there. So they all in right now. Team DC hungry for more kills, but it could prove disastrous. Ring of Frost comes out, gets a little bit of value. Sylvanas does fall, but the Butcher is still up, and so is KT. That's a lot of damage. There is no front line right now for Team DC. They have to buck out of there, or there could be big problems for them.
Yeah, it was a reasonable disengage. They did manage to take out the Sylvanas throughout all of that with Sozai on that Greymane, managed to get into that back line, but it's a very scary proposition when you have that Butcher just wailing away at any member on the side of Team DC, especially when he has that Divine Shield. Yeah, there's not a hell of a lot that you can do against a Butcher that is pretty much fully stacked and is just doing so much to any member. So they have to have that combination on lockdown, or they need to have incredibly good focus coming to these next fights, or that Butcher is going to tear apart Team DC.
Yeah, and they're keeping him alive as well, and that's a big concern for the Diablo, really, isn't it? That the Diablo could be in a potential spot of bother. If the Butcher fails to get to his backline target, he can just turn around and try and hurt or try and punish the Diablo as well.
Mm-hmm. Now we are. Yeah, looks like we're going to have Team DC controlling the top side of the map, whereas we do have Casual on the middle and the bottom side pushing in favor of Pocket Lighter. So we're just waiting for this next objective to come up and just waiting for this next massive team fight to come out from Team DC.
Well, they're a little bit spread right now for Team DC. This could be the situation that they wanted. The Butcher's going in all the way. Lamb to the slaughter. Jane, you are not the Dread Lord yet. But Butcher will get taken out, but that is a big part of the combo. Lost a lot of damage now. Team DC, do they try and force it, or do they back out? The Butcher is gone. KT's on low health. They could do it if they want to, but they're playing safe because the objective is up. But they, I mean, at least on the bright side, they have their Ring of Frost for this objective once Jaina gets back into it. Oh, nice. It looks like they have actually caught Stitches out of position. Can't, however, follow up with the kill.
Yeah, and even, as you mentioned, it was a 1v1, but a 1-4-1, but in the end, it was more heroics invested to make that play happen from Pocket Lighter. So coming into this next one, there's no Void Prison to set up the Wombo combo out of DC. They have to be a little bit careful, as we do have Pocket Lighter just bullying their way onto the point.
Yeah, look, really, at the moment, I think it's actually a pretty good situation for the Pocket Lighter boys. They do have Phoenix, so they can zone out, and they do have... Oh, Blank!
Oh, Blank!
The Butcher detected you, and he slammed the ground, and now you have been wasted. Oh, it's just wasted. The fight's breaking out now. It's looking at the advantage right now for Pocket Lighter. They go, and there's a lot of damage. Space Phoenix needs to back out, and the situation, Gwed, you are not going anywhere. Winter is coming for you. And look, this is bad. They can pick up the objective now, rotate down the mid lane, finally get that mid structure. And again, the big momentum swift shift has gone to Pocket Lighter.
No.
Space Phoenix will be removed. Jaina, Jaina, you only just resurrected. You like being dead too much, don't you?
Gotten a little bit too comfortable with that grey screen.
Oh,
it seems like So's in a very
as well.
situation, yeah. And that's essentially what we were kind of expecting from this composition out of Team DC. If we get those massive wombo combos, as we've been seeing, it is spectacular, and they wipe Pocket Lighter off the face of the planet. But if they are isolated and they're not in position, as we saw Blank getting caught out, then the whole thing just crumbles. As there's the Apocalypse to follow up, but they're not going to be using it. This is a very defensive Void Present. They get absolutely nothing out of it. The Arcane Punisher is just doing so much work. Those Arcane beams are just shredding the squishy members of Team DC.
Oh, the hook comes in, gets dinged. He's had to pop Apocalypse. Gets no value because there's no follow-up. It was a delay tactic, but delay tactic for what? John Cena jumps onto Malfurion, and he's now running onto Jaina. He wants to target that back line. Meanwhile, we've got the rest of the blue team wailing on the core, and that's it. Round 3, Pocket Lighter versus Team DC, and the game goes to Pocket Lighter.
Wow. What can you really say about that game? I mean, Pocket Lighter do come out with the win, but Team DC made them sweat at least a little bit. Some of those fights were so convincing that it was looking like a very likely possibility that they could take that. But Pocket Lighter, with those experienced players, really just toughing it out in the end, just picking out those key targets when it got to the really nitty-gritty, when we got into the late game, and just really dismantled that lineup that Team DC were putting together.
You know what? I think what we really saw out of that lineup was the minute Team DC got their heroics out of sync, it fell apart for them. They just couldn't get them back to a situation, and you saw situations where people were getting caught out like Blank, and then all of a sudden Jaina's trying to throw down a Ring of Frost to try and force a kill, force something. Void Prison's coming out for no effect, and that's really what I think failed it for Team DC, is that one bad fight, one bad use of heroic just completely destroyed the execution of their composition. So a very well done Pocket Lighter, played the game, played it strong, and when the mistake was made, they capitalized on it and they really punished it. MVP nomination. Can we give a solo MVP away, or will we pick two different heroes? Let's go, GL. Who was your twinkling star?
I'm kind of hating myself for this because I absolutely hate that hero, and I know I'm going to get some comment from him because of this, but I'm going to give it to Flays because sure, he ran it down a little bit at times, but he was taking so much of the aggro, and he was locking down key targets and just setting up a lot of those plays. Oh God, I hate that hero, but he played it so well.
I'm going to agree with you, GL. I'm actually going to agree with you. I'm going to MVP Butcher. He knew what his role was, and it was to punish the Jaina, to really put a lot of pressure on her and stop her from the combo, right?
Or even the Zeratul. Punish the Zeratul as well. Whenever Blank was out of position, he hit him with that hamstring and then just chased him to the ends of the earth.
Yeah, so he knew his role well, and he traded a death with Jaina. He traded his death with Jaina's death. It stopped Team DC having that real big combo pressure onto the objective. So I definitely agree with you, FaZe. The Butcher, the right way to play Butcher. Well done. You are this match's most valuable player. All right, guys. That is round 3. Stay tuned. We're just going to throw to a 2-minute quick break, but we'll be back right soon with the final round of the HGC here on GameStar.